Hello and welcome to the BDN Content Podcast. I'm Brian Nibley, and my goal with this podcast is to impart some of the knowledge I've gained over the years that has allowed me to change my life for the better, and in the hopes that it can help you somewhere along your journey as well. And with that in mind, today I'm going to shift focus a little bit away from Bitcoin and finance and tech, even though there's a lot happening there. I'll probably go into the banking collapses and all these crises happening and the big crypto crackdown and all that stuff in a future episode. But today I want to shift gears a little bit and focus on something a little more near and dear to myself. And it comes back to these two books that I've read that really changed my perspective on life and myself and how best to move forward and how to approach things. And they've stuck with me throughout the years and have really done me a lot of good. The first book is about poker, actually. I had a bit of an obsession with Texas Hold'em poker when I was in my late teens and early 20s. Still like to play, get together with some friends now and then, and most of them are not that experienced, so I teach them the basics while they learn the ropes. And it's a really fun, interesting game to me. And it's very metaphorical of life, because in poker, you have to know yourself and you have to be able to read people. You have to make decisions based on probabilities, knowing that there is no certainty. And from an outsider's perspective, it's easy to watch a poker game and just think that, oh, it's all luck. You know, whoever got the best cards won, and that's just it. That's all there is to it. And any one hand to another, that could very well be the case. But over time, the decisions you make in a poker game, whether to bet, raise, or fold, and by what amount, are you bluffing? Are you betting for value? Who is your opponent? What are they thinking? What cards might they have? Making the correct decisions over time can put the odds in your favor so that you win. You know, for example, when I play with half a dozen friends who don't know what they're doing, I never lose, no matter what cards I get, because I'm a lot more aware of what's going on in the game. It's a lot easier for me to read them than it is for them to read me. And of course, when I go to tougher poker games, that's not the case. It's not always that easy. But that's a great example of how metaphorical that game is of life itself. And getting back to the books that I was talking about, the first book is called Poker Winners Are Different. And I read it back when I mentioned I was in that phase, my late teens, early 20s. I thought maybe I wanted to be a professional poker player. That is not my thing, it turned out. But I still love to play now and then. The thing about this book, though, was it was totally different than what I was expecting. It wasn't about poker strategy or the math or anything like that. It was all about meta strategy, you could say. It was about knowing yourself and what you need to do specifically to have an edge, to be able to put the odds in your favor. Things like knowing when you're on tilt and you're so upset because something happened, you got a bad beat, you had a 90% favorite hand and you still lost. When you have some kind of emotional disturbance like that, it's better to just walk away from the table, because you're probably going to make bad decisions and you're probably going to lose money. That's one small example of the type of things he teaches in this book. And at the end of each chapter, he has this little assessment test for you to figure out where you're at and where you need to improve upon. And in a similar sense, there's this book called Trading in the Zone that I'm currently reading. I'm about halfway through it. It's about trading stocks and options. And it's a similar thing in that I expected it to be about, strategy, technical analysis, fundamentals, something of that nature. But it's actually all about psychology and emotions, and about controlling your emotions and sticking to a trading plan and being logical despite what happens in the market, and understanding that you cannot be certain about any outcome. You have to embrace uncertainty and be comfortable with it. Stick to your trading plan. Make trades where the edge is in your favor, the odds are in your favor, and just go with it no matter what happens. And if the trade turns against you, you have to cut your losses. You have to set a stop loss at a certain point and just take that loss and accept it. Because if you don't, the stock will probably keep falling further, and you're just going to lose more and sit there thinking and hoping, oh, maybe it'll go back one day. I'll just hold it, and eventually it'll go up. But that may not happen for a long, long time. It might not happen ever. So what you have to do is just cut your losses before they get too severe. And to the upside, when you have a winning trade, it's easy to just want to take profits right away. I think, wow, I won, I'm going to do this. But in reality, most of the time, you need to let your winners run to a certain degree. I mean, ideally, you have a plan in place and you set a profit target and you get out at that point. But most of the time, that target is going to be a lot higher than what you expect or where you instinctually want to take profits. And so whether it's in poker or trading or life, sometimes we have to do things that are counterintuitive to be successful. And sometimes things are not what they seem. And with trading, you would assume it's all about logic, and these guys just have genius level IQs. They stare at charts all day and do some crazy technical analysis stuff, but that's not the case. That really comes secondary to the emotional control and understanding of yourself. And without that, you cannot be a successful trader. And it's just a really fascinating concept to me. And I've learned that being in control of my emotions to whatever degree possible, because it's not always possible. Let's be reasonable. We're human and things happen. But it's more about an awareness, about knowing where you're at. And if you're not in the right place to make a decision, wait until you can make a better decision. And do whatever you have to in order to be in a good place to make good decisions as often as possible. For me and for many others, that involves, being at a high level of physical fitness, going to the gym regularly, doing things like prayer and meditation as much as possible, doing yoga or that kind of thing if you're into that, eating well, keeping my mind sharp by reading and being careful of what content I consume, whether that's on social media or in books or anywhere. And just trying to stick to a schedule, even though I'm really bad at that myself. I always wind up, trying to multitask or getting ahead of myself or working on one thing when I should be working on another thing. This podcast is a great example. I haven't uploaded a new episode in 3 months because I've been so scatterbrained and dealing with so many other things. It's really been a hectic time. But I'm really glad to have gotten to sit down and do this today. It's going to be a somewhat shorter episode because I just wanted to get these ideas out there, and there's a lot of other things that I could cover in upcoming episodes because there's been so much happening in the world that I really want to get to when it comes to the world of Bitcoin and fintech, tech and finance and all of that stuff, which is really one of my biggest passions in life. I love talking about it. And I've got a whole bunch of things coming up on my own personal career front, so it may make it difficult to upload future episodes, but I'm trying to commit to once a month, and that's pretty much it for this episode. So I hope you enjoyed this and got some value out of it. Visit my website if you're interested in learning more about me. That's bdncontent.com, Bravo Delta Niner Content.com. Find me on social media. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram at BDN Content. Find me on LinkedIn. Give me a comment on my blog or on social media if you see this post. And I'll see you next time.